Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast where we talk about all sorts of things. Today we thought we'd get into our current viewings. What do you have for us today?
Yes, we're doing current viewings again, and if you listened to the last episode, you'd probably already know what I'm going to talk about. It's the new Pokemon game.
Yeah! So you finally got the game.
Yes.
Nice. Well, I know last time you were waiting on it to be delivered.
Yes.
So, what did you think of it? Or give me the synopsis. What's your current viewing on this game?
So, the game is called Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, and my overall thoughts at the top was, so, like I said last time, the original, this is a remake, if for some reason you're listening to this one and not the last one, but the original came out in 2006, and it's one of my least favorite in the series. So there was that going into this, and honestly, this remake felt kind of pointless.
Ooh.
Like, in the marketing, they said it was in interviews leading up to the release, they said it was a faithful remake going in, so I probably should have expected that. It's just, usually when they remake these things, they change more. So I was kind of expecting more, even though I shouldn't have.
Oh.
Yeah. So the past remakes were either flat out better or a trade-off, in my opinion. And this one just kind of felt like mostly the same game again. There were still some changes, but eh.
Really? Oh. That stinks.
Yeah, but I still liked it overall. I had fun with it. So.
But is it still your least favorite?
It's not my least favorite total.
Okay.
But it is one of my least favorite of the series.
Oh, man. That's a disappointment. A crushing disappointment.
Well, I knew that going in. So, and it's still fun. I still had a fun time.
That's good. Oh.
So, yeah, to get into some more specifics. So, they were doing a new-ish graphical style with this game that they've kind of done it before, but not quite like this, where the originals of these games and the original Pokemon games were all 2D. So, it's a top-down, two-dimensional, and you're walking around with your little small character. And this was trying to do a 3D version of that 2D thing. And when the trailers first came out, I really didn't like it. Because I think something that they did in the original Pokemon games is they kind of squashed a lot of the proportions and made them kind of short and cutesy, the characters and whatnot. But that didn't come across quite as much in 2D. And it looks different in 3D, and I didn't like that.
Oh.
But once I finally got the game and got into it, it did look pretty good. It's still not my favorite style, and I like the original better, but it has its moments.
I like how you knew this wasn't going to be, super great going into it. You didn't like really the style of it that much, but you still, got it and tried it out.
Yeah, well, because I know I'm gonna have fun with this anyways. It would take a lot for me to get a Pokemon game and be like, oh, I really hate this.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and there were some the use of camera angles was a bit weird because of how they did the style. That's something you can't do in 2D that you can in 3D, and so, I think they don't quite have it figured out. There's just a lot of weird angles because they try to pull in closer on certain scenes, and sometimes that works well, and sometimes it really didn't.
Why would they release it if you feel like they haven't really worked through that? Wouldn't they just wait and kind of perfect it, or they just had to meet a timeline?
Yeah, so that is actually this happens a lot in games.
Okay.
Where you have a release date and you ship regardless, usually.
Oh.
Not all the time, sometimes things get delayed, but that has happened a lot of times, both past and present in games, is that, if you're not finished, you just ship regardless. And this game definitely suffers from that. There's a lot of bugs
Yeah.
that are like, this is buggier than the majority of previous Pokemon games. So it's clear to me they didn't have enough time and it could have used some more development time.
Do they send out like any, I don't know how it works. Do they send out any updates and stuff whenever there are
Yes.
bugs?
They do now, yeah. In the past, that... So, because internet connectivity was what it was back in the day, that either couldn't happen or just was impractical to happen, and so the only way it would get updated is if they made more product. So, like, sometimes some games, if they did a second, like, disc run or something, there would be an updated version.
Gotcha.
But if you had the original version, then, you were out of luck.
Oh, okay.
But now with internet and whatnot, yeah, a lot of games will release patches that'll fix bugs and different things.
So stay tuned for more patches on this one.
Yeah, we'll see. I assume they'll fix most of the stuff, but it's like most of the bugs aren't like a big deal.
Yeah.
You kind of have to go out of your way to run into them.
Gotcha.
So, something else I mentioned in the last episode was the music, which I said in every remake so far, the music had been lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
How was it?
yeah, I thought they did a good job. I still like the original better, just because I like the, timbre of the, sort of synthesized sound compared to this more, this is going for a more realistic instrument sort of sound.
Gotcha.
But I think they did a good job with these versions of the songs.
Good. Well, that's a positive note, kind of.
And story-wise, this is one of the reasons this is one of my least favorite games, is I think this has the worst story, or it's either first or second worst story in a Pokemon game.
It's terrible.
Which... Pokemon as a series isn't exactly known for its good storytelling, but I still like stories in games, and I like the Pokemon game stories, even if they're not, they're not some sort of high art, pinnacle of storytelling.
So what was the story, in a nutshell?
Yeah, so... Pokemon games have multiple things going on for them. So first you have sort of your baseline, plot, so to speak, of you going through the game. So, you collect Pokemon and then you, train them up. And then you do all your battles. And your goal is to become the best trainer. So to do that, you go through and explore the world. And you run into these gyms. And you challenge the gym and defeat the gym leader. And then you can go explore more of the world. And then you do that till you defeat all 8 gym leaders. Then you go to the Elite Four and defeat them, and then defeat the champion, and then you're the best Pokemon trainer. And this one's pretty typical in that regard. I mean, they all basically do the same thing. And there's also, you have, friends and or rivals that hang about, and you battle them sometimes, and they talk with you. And you have the Villainous Team, which is an organization that is... I think in the last episode I said they do nefarious things.
Yeah.
In the first game, they're just a basic, mafia-style crime thing. They run the casino in a town, and they, steal stuff and take over buildings to steal stuff.
So rude.
Pretty basic stuff.
Yeah.
In this one, they are a group called Team Galactic, and their leader wants to use the power of legendary Pokemon to destroy the world and make a new one where he can be a god.
Lofty goal there.
Yeah. So, and the reason I think this is bad is because the character's just crap.
Aw.
It's, the main villain is just a boring character.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I think in both, design and in just, he's just misanthropic and megalomaniacal. There we go. He doesn't like people, so he wants to create a world for himself.
It's terrible.
And like all the little underlings are gags, like none of them know what's going on, and they're either like obsessed with promotion or they're like, I don't know what's happening, but I joined this group anyways.
I had no idea there was such a subplot to this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're pretty involved. But like you run into them, they take over a few buildings or have their own buildings that you take down and whatnot, and eventually you find out their plan, which is, well, actually, they blow up a lake.
A lake?
Yeah, they take a bomb.
For what reason?
Because the lake has a legendary Pokemon in it, and they blow it up to wake up the legendary Pokemon.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and they abduct these 3 legendary Pokemon that have mystical powers or something, and they use it to make a device, the purpose of which is to control an even more powerful legendary Pokemon, so that he can use it to create his own universe, you know.
I would, that would constitute Nefarious for sure.
And so you go through and defeat them. And another reason I think this is bad is it is just terribly paced.
Oh.
Like this game in general just has really bad pacing. Like there is a long stretch between fighting gym leaders where you kind of just like walk around and don't do much of anything. And then like towards the end, the villain plot just kind of goes all at once. Like you have your first real confrontation with the main villain, and then the final confrontation with the main villain, like, within, those 2 events are right next to each other. So it's just...
What?
Yeah, it's not well paced at all, and it makes it, like, a mess, and like I said, the characters aren't good, and the rest of the characters aren't good. Like, your rival has one character trait, and it's that he's impatient. And, like I said, these games aren't known for their intricate storytelling, but they have done better than a character with one character trait, and then the other character who just, like, is the researcher's assistant, because all these games have a professor that researches Pokemon, and this other character that you just meet and talk to occasionally, and that's basically it. Like, they don't really have a personality other than the researcher's assistant.
Nice.
So yeah, I still don't like it. The story.
You're not really selling this to me, man.
Yeah. And like I said, because it was a faithful remake, they didn't make like any changes. The last remake they did actually did make changes to the story, and I thought it was for the worse, but they did make changes. And I think this one probably should have too.
Oh. I wonder why they didn't.
It's probably, like, complicated reasons going back and forth, because this was the first time one of these games was developed outside of the, like, main studio, so the main development studio is called Game Freak.
Mm-hmm.
And, for this one, they outsourced it to a different company.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, like, you know, it could be that, like, they decided, you know, because this is a different company, like, make it as faithful to the original as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it could also be that they, like, looked at market research they had done and decided that, you know, that's what people wanted, was a faithful remake.
Right. I'm sure a lot goes into making those kinds of decisions.
Yeah. So, you know, we don't know. Either way, I think it was probably a mistake given their, like, previous remakes and how those went, but I don't know.
Nice.
Alright, and so now I'm going to talk about the gameplay.
Okay.
Which is the main draw of a Pokemon game. And it's more or less the same as it ever was. Like I said last time, the gameplay, like the core of the gameplay, hasn't changed, where you're sitting there and battling monsters, and, like, you have to worry about your type advantages and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That hasn't really changed ever. They've made minor improvements that, in the scope of things, end up being rather large, but, like, if you get it from like from the games way back in the day, and you play a modern game, you get it now.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as remakes go, this one probably also has the least amount of changes. Not because it's faithful, but because, like, there have been less changes, like additions or whatever, to the battle system since 2006. Like, one of the things I really liked about past remakes is that they have these, changes to the battle system that are, I think, good improvements. And so those past remakes, regardless of how you feel about the original game, they have a better battle system, usually. And in this one, it's just like, well, by 2006, they mostly had, like, everything figured out. There are some minor things, but it's kind of the same.
Yeah, since 2006, so not much has changed.
Yeah, but there have been some changes. The thing is that some of these changes have gotten cut along the way, or that, like, they're not as much compared to what it was in, like, the remakes that came out in 2013, remaking the games from 2002.
Mm-hmm.
So, the biggest one are the changes to types. So, they added fairy type in 2013.
Like the type of Pokemon?
Yeah. So, that's now in this game, and Dark and Ghost type used to be not very effective against Steel type, but now they're neutrally effective against Steel type.
Is that better, or?
It's better if you're Dark or Ghost, worse if you're Steel.
Yeah. That's true.
But, it still have a lot of fun playing through the gameplay of these. I think it's a lot of fun to collect Pokemon, especially to try to use ones you haven't really used before.
Yeah.
And leveling them up, dealing with your moves and, like, all that stuff. And I'm gonna send you a picture of the team I used.
Oh, okay, hold on, let me get to it. Oh. So these are ones that you have, like, captured, and then you train, and then they fight.
Yes, you can only have 6 with you at a time. So, those were the 6 I used to play the game with.
Cool. These are cool looking. I like the bunny looking one.
Yeah, you want me to go over what their names and types are?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's Empoleon, that's a water and steel type.
Ooh.
The next one's Lopunny, that's a normal type.
What's a normal type mean?
That's just normal. It's neutral hit on almost everything.
Okay.
And it only has 1 weakness. So it's a pretty, like, basic type.
Gotcha.
Next is Toxicroak, which is a poison fighting type.
Interesting. Okay.
Then Bronzong, which is a psychic steel type.
Psychic?
Yeah.
Goodness. So I can see what's coming.
Then it's Clefable, which is a Clefable? I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyways, it's a fairy type.
That one's cute.
And then it's Dialga, or again, pronunciations, which is a dragon steel, and that's the, like, legendary of the game.
That one looks fierce.
Yes.
I like it. Cool. What's your favorite of these?
Oh, I don't know.
Nah, you don't have one.
I guess the frog? Toxicroak?
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a frog.
Okay.
You get
I
it like a poison dart frog?
Yeah, I get it. Well, if you're going by looks, I like the bunny one.
Oh, yeah.
Or the dragon one. Pretty cool looking.
Yeah, so, other than that, there's a few other minor changes. They removed HMs, which I'll spare you the technical details, but they were a really annoying part of the original game. Like, you had to use a specific move, and because the Pokemon only get 4 moves, that's a lot of, like, investment to progress through the game, and they removed that so you can just, like, do it at any time.
Mm.
And there's a fun mini game that's back from the original where you're, like, going underground and trying to excavate, like, little shiny rocks and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, so overall, I had problems with it. Like I said, it felt mostly pointless, but I still had fun with it.
Well, that's good at least. I mean, as long as you had fun.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Well, there you go. Okay, well. So, my turn, right?
Yes. What did you bring for us?
Okay, so mine is not necessarily a viewing,
Oh.
but I think I've done this before.
Yes.
Where yeah, mine is a book that I just read. And so I mean, but that's like my viewing, you know. So this was a book called Every Last Word. It's fiction, and it's by Tamara Ireland Stone. And basically what it's about is this girl who's in high school. Her name's Samantha, but she goes by Sam, and she has basically OCD, so she has obsessive compulsive disorder, but it's primarily, like, her illness is primarily on the obsessive part. So she has, you know, these, like, intrusive thoughts, and she is obsessive about, like, the number 3, and there's just some different examples of obsessive compulsive disorder that focuses on the obsessive part of it. So I thought that was really interesting because, I mean, there are stories with, you know, mental illness as a focus, but this is the first one I read that I felt like went into an actual, you know, diagnosis and portrayed it, you know, pretty clear. Like, it was clear there was a lot of research that went into this kind of thing, you know. So I thought that was good. And so the basic premise of this is, so the girl has OCD, and it's kind of, it gets more triggered by her group of friends because they put a lot of pressure on her. Basically, like, she's a part of this group of popular girls called the Crazy Eights. It's like their, like, little clique name, I guess. And they're, like, very popular. They're obsessed with, like, being perfect. Well, obsessed is not really, you know, anyway. Obsessed with being perfect. And, like, for instance, she asked her friends to call her Sam. And they're like, no, I'm not calling you Sam. Your name's Samantha. You know, so it's like this whole, like, they're just very, you know, toxic, I guess you would say. And so she has these friends. And so during the summer, so she's on a swim team and she's really good at swimming. And when she's in the pool is the only time that she can really, like, let go of her OCD. And so she calls it, like, she's Summer Sam when she spends time away from her friends and in the pool with her, like, pool friends. She's, like, a different, you know, more lighthearted, carefree person. And so we see, like, when she goes back to school after the summer's over and she's a part of her friend group again, that everything starts getting worse. And so basically, so one day at the beginning of school, like, she's having a lot of anxiety about being with her friends again, which is kind of terrible. And so she meets this new girl named Caroline. And Caroline has, like, a locker right next to hers, and Caroline can see, like, how she has this pressure on her. And Caroline's the first person that she shares, like, her OCD diagnosis with. She doesn't tell anybody about it but Caroline. So Caroline's, look, I have this, it's like a secret club, and I think it's going to change your life. And so she says, meet me in a theater on Thursday. And so basically they go, like, down to the basement of the theater at school, and there's a secret room, like a secret door and a secret room, and they all meet there. And at first the leader of this, like, secret club is this guy AJ, and he doesn't want to let her in. But like, Caroline kind of, like, convinces him to let her in. And she doesn't know why. Sam doesn't know why, like, he doesn't want to let her in. Well, one of her friends says, oh, you don't remember that guy? when we were in like 4th grade, like we used to make fun of him, and basically they bullied him because he had a stutter. Well, so in this group, he goes by AJ, where he used to go by Andrew. Now his name is AJ, and he doesn't have a stutter anymore. Like he, grew past that, grew out of it, and he writes poetry. So this whole thing is called Poets Corner, and that's like the club, and they basically like find an outlet through words, through poetry. And he writes music, and so he'll play it for the group. So basically this club is everybody writes their own poetry, and then they recite it to each other, and you can't make fun, you can't judge. It's just like an outlet for these kids, okay? So she leads the secret life in school with this little poetry group, and she goes home and she like writes. Yeah, no, it's like a real home. She goes home and she writes her poetry, and Caroline helps her with her poetry and stuff, but she doesn't tell her friends about it. So slowly we see that it's secret poetry. So she doesn't tell her friends, and we see like that she's moving away from her friend group that has all this pressure, and she realizes like she becomes obsessive about the poetry, but that it's a healthy way to be obsessive. In other words, like it's not being obsessive about being perfect. It's an outlet for her. And so she ends up like, she starts dating this guy, AJ, and she sees him in a whole different light, and she apologizes because she realized like she bullied him when they were younger. She apologizes to him, and they eventually like, have this love interest, and she's with him, but she keeps that relationship a secret too, because her friends wouldn't understand. Yeah, and so she has a therapist that she sees weekly, and she's like telling her therapist about all this stuff, and about her friend Caroline, as she's the only friend she could be herself with, really. And well, okay, so toward the end of the book, so it's just like this cute little story, right? Like she finds an outlet. She can be herself with these new friends. Well, then she decides like, hey, I don't want to keep my relationship secret anymore. I'm not ashamed of you guys. Like, I want to tell my friends about y'all. And of course, like her friends make fun of her for dating AJ, but she doesn't tell them about Caroline yet. Well, she makes the mistake of telling AJ about Caroline. She's like, where's Caroline? I haven't seen her. And they're all friends in this little poetry corner thing. But one thing that's kind of weird is Caroline never reads her poetry. Like, she just sits and watches the group, okay? So AJ's like, are you kidding me? Like, well, who's Caroline? Well,
yep,
come to find out, so Caroline is somebody she made up. Dude, I did not see that coming. I was like, and I was reading this late at night, and it like gave me chills. I was just like, oh my, what? I didn't see this coming. Okay? Totally surprised me. And AJ's like, are you talking about Caroline? Whatever her last name is, I don't even remember. And she's like, yeah, like her locker's right there. And he says, Caroline died in 2007. So it's like this whole thing that she had read about like several years ago. She remembered hearing about this girl who was bullied and committed suicide. And it was like stored in her subconscious, basically. And she created Caroline as her friend as a coping mechanism, because she had such anxiety with her OCD and all these intrusive thoughts that Caroline made her feel okay, And so she has a nervous breakdown because she was like, am I that like messed up that I made up a whole friend and I didn't, like she realizes that, wow, like she thought she was getting better and she was being more herself. But in reality, she felt like when she discovered Caroline wasn't real, she felt like even more sick, and she just went into a nervous breakdown, had this kind of depressive episode. But then we see like her therapist is like explaining, well, Caroline was really a good thing for you, if you really think about it, because you made up this person to help you cope, and she did that for you, like she helped you be more yourself, and she helped you realize that your friends were toxic and were making your symptoms worse and, whatever. But she's just totally distraught, and she feels like no one will understand. And then eventually, like, her boyfriend comes back, and he's like, he was scared, but like he's like gonna stand by her, And then like one of her friends from her toxic friend group comes and visits her and says like, I'm always here for you, whatever. So anyway, it ends up like she has a few people where she could be herself. Well, a couple people. And so that's basically the whole thing. And she discovers that the Poets Corner, that was a real group, and AJ was really a part of it. And that it was actually started by the real Caroline before she committed suicide, because she felt ostracized. And so, like, the janitor, like, found this, like, cool room, and she started using it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a whole little, like, Poets Corner was actually based on Caroline, like, the real one. And so, anyway, although you might have seen it coming, I totally didn't see that coming at all.
Well,
so... I thought it was really good.
When you said that she told him about her boyfriend, but not Caroline, I was like, oh, I know where this is going.
No, I did not see it coming, because it was like in the book as she's describing it, it's like, she's like, well, I didn't even get a chance to tell him about Caroline because they were so focused on AJ, and it's like, oh, like once you realize she made her up, you're like, oh, that's right. Caroline never did talk at the group. Like she would just watch, like, and you put it all together. But when you're reading it, it's like, oh, Caroline's her friend, So I don't know. I thought it was really cool because, for one, I mean, mental health awareness is always a good thing. And I thought this was kind of something I hadn't read before when I'm reading like YA stuff. Sometimes when they present like mental illness, it's always like not a very good portrayal. You know what I mean? Like it's not really well thought out. And I thought this was kind of a good way of showing like OCD, but not the stereotypical OCD kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
What if Caroline wasn't made up, but actually a ghost? Ooh, spooky.
Well, that's where I thought it was going at first, and that's why I got like all creeped out, like I was saying, I was reading it late at night and I got like, chills. I was like, oh, and now I couldn't like go to sleep because I was like, I gotta finish reading, like I gotta see what this is. I thought at first it was a ghost thing, like totally not thinking like, oh, this girl has OCD, like she created this coping mechanism. No, I thought it was like gonna be a ghost thing, but turns out it wasn't. But it kind of was. I mean, if you think about it, like sure, subconsciously she stored this in her brain and then manifested it, So I was like, kind of creepy. But anyway, so there's a lot of, like symbolism and different things that I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, definitely cool read. I would read it again. Yeah, it ended up with a happy ending, which I always like, I mean, not happy, but like, you'll get through this,
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Was this made into a movie or have like a movie coming up? Because I don't know why, but for some reason this sounds like extremely like a plot to a movie.
I feel like I thought the same thing, but I don't know of any movie, but you never know. They're doing more and more of these books like to Netflix movies or to another streaming service, So I hope it does become a movie because I think that would be a pretty cool movie plot.
I don't know why. It's just like,
yeah.
I guess because there's multiple movies about like a high school like poet group, right? Poetry group.
Well, I remember like Dead Poets Society and I'm sure there are other ones.
Yeah, for some reason that sticks out to me as like a movie thing.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I can't think of them right now. That's the only one I can really think of. But
me either. So
I'm sure there are more. But I thought this would be a cool movie. I haven't seen one or found that it is going to be a movie yet, but I think it would be a great movie.
Yeah, especially like that twist. Yeah. That sounds very much like something a movie would do.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Like I just watched that movie Oh, what was it called? I had read the book first and watched the movie on Netflix. Well, there was a few of them. Like one was like Before I Fall. I can't think of what the other one was, but it's basically one of them is about the girl who like she keeps reliving the same day until she finally like learns like where she dies, and then she finally learns like the lesson that's there, and that was a good one. I don't remember the name of it. Maybe that was Before I Fall. I don't know. Anyways, there's been a few that I've watched that I thought were really good. I think one is called After. Why are all these before and afters? I don't know, but so hopefully this one will be made into a movie as well. And I really love that. I love when I read a book and then the movie comes out and then I can like analyze it, you know.
Yeah,
like,
compare
the
them.
book's always better, of course. Yeah. But it's kind of cool to see. I like to read the book first and you get all of the emotions in the book because it goes into, you know, great detail. And then see the movie and just kind of see how they like, you know, they always have to shorten it for a movie.
Yeah.
But to see how like the picture in your mind, like as you're reading it, compares to like what they created in the movie, you know?
Well, I guess that's, anything else to say on?
No, that was a lot. So,
Yeah.
no, to summarize, it was a great book.
Alright, well, yeah, I guess that's everything then.
That's been our current viewings.
Yes. It's the third time we've done a current viewings.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll take us out.
Yeah.
Alright, well, thanks for listening to Beach View. We hope you enjoyed it, and tune in next time for more things. Bye.
For more great fun things. Bye.